Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to take a look at Basketball GM, which is a basketball simulation platform, completely free and completely online. It allows you to be a general manager of a franchise, and it allows you to simulate the NBA from start to finish and for any number of seasons for any team whatsoever. So in this case, we've simulated the NBA three different times from 1947 to 2021 to the preseason 2021. We have simulated as if we were one team. However, I've put it on autoplay, meaning that everything was completely automized by the computer. So any trade, any draft pick, any contract was automatically managed by the computer, and therefore I've tried to be as impartial as possible. And today we're just going to take a look at the results of this simulation, which was for a total of 75 seasons, again from 1947 to 2021. For this season, for this league, I specifically chose the Detroit team, which in this case is called the Detroit Muscle, as they don't have the rights to the Detroit Pistons franchise. However, was just purely a randomized choice, and we're just going to take a look at all the players and how their careers and injuries and potential turned out. We're going to take a look at individual awards, team awards, and then some of the top players of all time, how their careers turned out. And then hopefully we'll see if we can determine a new GOAT for this league. Now, as you can see here in this main section here, the award records for most championships won by an individual is by Patrick Ewing, as he won over five championships with the two franchises he was with in Milwaukee and Houston. And he won from 1998 to 1993 in that time frame. He won 5 championships, and he retired as of right now, of course. However, he was not inducted in the Hall of Fame, as we can see, his career averages and totals were not at all resembling all of the Patrick Ewing we know in real life, as he only won 5 championships but did not make any All-Star teams, any All-NBA teams, or any other sort of individual award. Therefore, while he had a great successful career with his teams, he was not able to reach his full potential, though he was selected as the 4th pick of the 1985 NBA draft. Next, we're going to have Tom Gola, who, similarly to Patrick Ewing, he was a 5-time NBA champion, although later on in his career, and he was, as well as Ewing, possibly a role player or a rotation player, but he was never a true star, as he was not inducted in the Hall of Fame, and he only played a number of years but never made it to the Hall of Fame of the NBA. Another name that you may look here is Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson won 5 NBA championships in this simulation from 1983 to 1999 with 3 different teams, so that is very impressive. And he was also able to retire and be in the Hall of Fame. So that is very impressive, and that closely resembles the career that Magic Johnson had, although he never won one championship in 1999, especially with Denver. Next, we go with the award records. This is very surprising, as we have Tracy McGrady winning a league's best 8 MVPs throughout his career, which, by the way, as of 2021 is not over yet, as he has not retired yet, and therefore he's not eligible for the Hall of Fame. He has won 8 MVPs, all in Utah, from 2004 to 2008 and 2010 to 2012. He won all of these on the same team, and if we look at his career totals and all his accolades, we can see that he has an enormously successful career. He averaged almost 26 points, 8.7 rebounds, and 7 assists. He was as we said earlier, 8-time MVP, 2-time NBA champion, 3-time Finals MVP, 6-time DPOY, 4-time league scoring leader, and 4-time league steals leader, and 1-time league rebounding leader. And that prompted him to have 21 straight All-Star selections, and as of last year, 2020, he was still an NBA All-Star, and he won 4 All-Star MVP awards. So it's safe to say that Tracy McGrady is arguably one of the earlier candidates for the GOAT conversation in this league, and it's nice to see a career played out where in real life his career was plagued by injuries, but now in this simulation he was not only a very successful player, but he was also picked number 1 in the first round in 1997. Next, we have another surprise, John Drew. John Drew was a very solid player back early in his Atlanta days in the league. However, nobody could have predicted that he would have won 7 NBA MVPs, all in Los Angeles, 7 straight MVPs. He won all of them while in Los Angeles, and the last one was in 1982. He, of course, retired and was inducted in the Hall of Fame. Now, it's extremely important to look at his career because John Drew is an utter candidate for the GOAT position. His averages are slightly lower than Tracy McGrady. He averaged 21.9 points, 6.5, 9.3 rebounds, and 4.2 assists, but his accolades are equally, if not better, impressive. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was a 7-time most valuable player. He won one championship and one Finals MVP, but he was a 7-time DPOY, 6 Man of the Year at the tail end of his career. He was a 6-time scoring champion, a 5-time rebounding champion, a 7-time steals champion, and he won. He made 10 teams first league NBA, and he was a 16-time All-Star, 16 of those straight, and a 6-time All-Star MVP. So it's safe to say that him and Tracy McGrady are among the best NBA players of all time in this league. We also have Maurice Stokes, which might be a little more known than John Drew, but surely not for having won 7 MVPs. He won all of them in New York from 1956 to 1966, and he was obviously inducted in the Hall of Fame. If we just take a look at his career, he had averages of 17.9 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 9.8 assists, so very well-rounded. He was a 7-time MVP. He won just one championship and a 3-time DPOY. Now, we can see that his career averages are extremely impressive, as he was also an 18-time All-Star. He may not be on the same level of John Drew or Tracy McGrady, but arguably, in real life, he would still be considered one of the GOATs. And it's very impressive. He was also the first pick of the first round in New York by the New York Knicks and in 1955. So we are going to exit him out, and we're just going to take a look at Michael Jordan later on, but it's important to note that he won 5 MVPs just like in real life, although most of them he won earlier on than his actual career. And of course, he was inducted in the Hall of Fame. So we're going to skip to Finals MVP. Now, we've seen lots of players win championships. However, both Patrick Ewing and Tom Gola were both role players, and even though they won 5 championships, they didn't win many Finals MVP. Magic Johnson was arguably one of the biggest winners in this simulations. He won 5 championships and 4 Finals MVP. 3 in OKC and 1 in Portland in 1990. So if you remember, he won a championships in Denver in 1999, but arguably, he was just a role player by that point. But every other team that he played on that he won a championship with, he ended up winning Finals MVP. Jerry West also had a much more successful championship career than his real life. He won 3 championships, and he won 3 Finals MVP instead of 1 championship and 1 Finals MVP as it is in real life. Tracy McGrady, also you can see here, won 3 Finals MVP, and all those were really impressive. And as you can see here, he was not inducted in the Hall of Fame yet, just because he's not retired. There is another player that sticks out, Ralph Seward. He was 2-time Finals MVP, but he was not inducted into the Hall of Fame due to the fact that his career was not deserving of the Hall of Fame nod. Next, we are going to Defensive Player of the Year. Once again, as we've seen earlier, John Drew is arguably the best defender the NBA has ever seen, with 7 Defensive Player of the Year titles, most of them straight, from 79 to 83, and then 76 and 77. And Wilt Chamberlain and Tracy McGrady closely follow him with 6 titles each. Wilt Chamberlain, let's take a look at him. He also had a very successful career. He arguably didn't have the same scoring explosiveness as his actual career, but he had a very, very productive career nonetheless. In his rookie season, he averaged 18.2 points rather than, 30 plus points as he did in his rookie season, and he averaged 15.9 points, 12.1 rebounds, and 1.9 assists, so the rebounding was still there. And he had a very productive career, winning a championship, a 6-time Defensive Player of the Year award. He was an 8-time rebounding leader and a multiple-time All-NBA member and a 10-time All-Star. So not quite as a dominant career as the actual Wilt Chamberlain, but still a Hall of Fame-worthy career. All right, and last, we are going to look at All-Star selections, and Tracy McGrady in this case blows everyone out of the water. Tracy McGrady won 21 All-Star selections in a row from 2000 to 2020. So he made the All-Star team every season from 2000 onward, with Memphis and later on with Utah. Utah is where he had the most success. Jason Kidd is also close second with 19. He made it in both Dallas and Charlotte, where his last All-Star team he made was in 2013. And he was inducted, of course, in the Hall of Fame. And as you can see here, most players up here, if they were multiple-time All-Stars, they were also inducted in the Hall of Fame, provided that they retired, of course. And the only exception here is Ray Felix, who was an 11-time All-Star with 5 different teams. But if we take a look at his career, he was mostly a bench player who ended up having great scoring numbers and therefore was selected for the All-Star team, but never truly had any other major accolades. And while I still would argue that he probably deserved the Hall of Fame, he was not granted this due to the lack of star power in his game. Briefly, we're just going to take a look at the team, the best teams in NBA history in this simulation. This is highlighted just because the Detroit Muscles was the team that the simulation ran with. However, the Los Angeles Lowriders, which are the Los Angeles Lakers, are arguably the best team in this simulation. They made the finals a league best 15 times, and they won a league best 9 titles. The Oklahoma City 66ers, which are the Oklahoma City Thunders, and the Seattle Supersonics merged together, also are very, very good franchise, making a 7 finals and winning all of them. And the last final they made was actually in 2020, so they're the league's defending champion as of this season. All right, so we're just going to take a look now at some players that are widely considered by many top 10 players of all time and see how their careers turned out. So we have Michael Jordan, who by many is considered the GOAT in real life. He was selected as the first pick of the 1984 draft by Philadelphia. He was not the third pick in this case, and he had a very good career. He averaged 23.6 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. He had an extremely productive and long career with a lot of different teams. He was first drafted by Philly and played there until 1992. Then he was signed by Oklahoma City, then Miami, and then Toronto. He had very, very good scoring seasons, especially his rookie season. Arguably, his rookie season was one of the better seasons, where he averaged 34.5 points, 6.0 rebounds, and 6.8 assists. And that is arguably one of the better seasons he's had. Later on in his career, he also had more rounded seasons in terms of assists and rebounds, but scoring-wise, his rookie season was one of the better ones. 1989, arguably his peak, 37.2 points, 9.2 assists, and 6.9 rebounds, and that made for a very, very productive career. He was also an excellent three-point shooter in this simulation. He shot 37.5% on around 2.2 attempts, so pretty good for the time. And he also had a field goal percentage at the rim and 2-point and mid-range that was really good. 64.9% at the rim is excellent for his career. Overall, he had a very productive career, although he is arguably not the GOAT of this simulation. He was a 5-time MVP and a 3-time NBA champion, although he only won one Finals MVP in 1987. As you can see here, he won a championship in 2001 at the tail end of his career. Just like in his real-life career, he won a Defensive Player of the Year, and he was the Rookie of the Year. He was a 6-time scoring leader instead of a 10-time scoring leader. He was a 10-time All-NBA first team selection and an 11-time All-Star, and he won 2 times the All-Star MVP. So a very, very productive career. Probably not GOAT worthy, but arguably one of the better players and one of the better shooting guards that the NBA has seen in this simulation. You can also see that he struggled with injuries a lot. He missed 23 games um, in 1996 with a herniated disc, and he had some minor injuries all across his career. And he retired in 2001. So he won a championship actually in 2001, the last year of his career. Next, we're going to take a look at LeBron James, who is actually retired now. He is 37 years old at the beginning of the 2021 season. He was the first pick of the first round of the 2003 draft. He, of course, did not attend college. He was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers, or whatever the name is in this simulation. He had a relatively good NBA career, are not nearly as good and powerful as the career that he had in real life. He averaged almost 18 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 6.8 assists. So a well-rounded career, but nowhere close to the actual potential that he had in real life. He was also a mediocre three-point shooter with 31.6% on a little over two attempts per game. As far as his career went, he was a two-time Defensive Player of the Year, a Rookie of the Year, a block leader, one-time first team All NBA, six-time second team All NBA, and a two-time third team All League, and a six-time first team All Defensive. So he was arguably not even the best player in his class, perhaps, assuming that Carmelo Anthony and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh did good. He was an 11-time All-Star, which is pretty good, but of course this is nowhere close to his 4-time MVP, 3-time champion, 3-time Finals MVP type of career that he had in real life. It seems like he was more of a defensive specialist, and his accolades are more resembling of a more defensive-minded Carmelo Anthony today. So very good and Hall of Fame worthy career, but nowhere close to his actual greatness. And as you can see here, he struggled with some minor injuries throughout his career, and he even tore in a meniscus in 2007, which caused him to miss half of the season. He retired in 2019, so much earlier than he retired. He would retire probably in life, assuming that he retires. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is another player who holds the NBA record for most MVPs won in real life, and we'll see what happens here. He was the first pick of the first round by the Milwaukee, which is actually what happened in real life, which is really exciting. He had career averages of 20.6 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 1.3 assists. So again, not as good as the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in real life. His highest scoring season was in 1972, and he scored a little over 29 points, so nowhere close to the 35, 36 points that his prime seasons had. His field goal percentage was really good, especially in the prime of his career, around 60% or lower 50s and such. His 3-point percentage, of course, has never been good, and he's not known to be a 3-point specialist, with a 3-point percentage of 18.6% on barely 0.1 attempts per game. So again, this is negligible. In terms of his career, he was a 4-time DPOY, a 4-time scoring leader, a 7-time block leader, and 4-time first-team All-NBA member, and 8-time All-Star. So arguably his career was really good, of course, Hall of Fame worthy, as he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, but he wasn't as scoring minded as he was in real life. He was an excellent defender, just like he was in real life, and arguably got more recognition, but he never won an MVP compared to the six MVPs he won in real life. And as you can see here, his career was not cut short by any specific injury, but you can see here that he struggled with fractured feet and bruised joints and bones all over. So this arguably caused him to cut his career short, as he only played 10 years in the NBA. Next, we're going to have the second to last players. We look at Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson was the first pick of the first round by Milwaukee. Again, Milwaukee has had a lot of draft luck in this case. He was, in real life, Magic Johnson is arguably the best point guard of all time. In this case, he had a relatively good career and with averages that are very similar, if not better, than his real life counterpart. He averaged 23.9 points, which is higher than his career average in real life, 9.2 assists, and 6.6 rebounds. So his assist total is not as great as real life, but his scoring average has gone a lot better. He even ended up averaging almost 40 points in 1984, and he averaged 30 points for 5 NBA seasons, which was unheard of by Magic Johnson. His assists were really, really good. He had 5 seasons averaging over 11 assists and a lot more averaging over 10 assists. And his turnovers were really, really low for the number of assists. He never had more than 4 turnovers per game. His steals were also excellent. He had 6 seasons averaging 2 or more steals, and his blocks were relatively good for being a guard, especially due to his size. He was a 3-time MVP, a 5-time champion, a 4-time Finals MVP, the Rookie of the Year, a 3-time scoring leader, which never happened to Magic Johnson in real life, and was the only once the assist leader, which again never happened to Magic Johnson in his life because he was much more than just a 1-time league assist leader. He made 12 All-NBA first teams, and he was a 15-time All-Star. So arguably, out of all the players we've seen so far that are considered top 5 NBA players of all time in real life, Magic Johnson has had the better career. Last, we are going to look at Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was the second pick of the 1996 draft. He was a much higher selection than in real life, and of course he came out of high school just like today, just like he did in real life. His career totals are slightly lower than his real life totals, especially scoring wise, but he still had a very productive career. He averaged almost 20 points, 6.3 assists, and 4.7 rebounds. So assists and rebounds are on par with some of his better career averages. 19.8 points is a rather good career average, but he never had that prime scoring years that he had in real life. His highest scoring season was 26.3 points in 2005 with Memphis. He had over 6-7 seasons of averaging over 20 points in the NBA, which is really good. He also had some later seasons later on, just like in his real life, where he averaged just a little over 10 points per game. In terms of career accolades, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016. He won one championship and Finals MVP in 2006. He was a 7-time All-NBA second team member, a 3-time All-NBA, 3-time All-NBA third team member, and a 2-time All-Defensive third team, which, by the way, does not exist in real life but exists in this simulation. He was also a 13-time All-Star, so a very solid career for Kobe Bryant. Never the best player in the league, never the highest scoring player in the league, but a very, very solid and long career. And as we can see, his injuries were frequent, especially earlier on, where he missed 36 games for a fractured ankle and 17 for a sprained knee. So arguably those would eventually end up affecting him later on in his life. However, he had a very, very impressive career regardless of his real life counterpart. So we've reached the conclusion of this simulation. As you can see here, arguably the 2 best players that have ever played in the NBA, according to these simulations, are arguably Tracy McGrady and John Drew. Now, let's take a look at their accolades, and keep in mind that Tracy McGrady has not retired yet, but he is 42 years old and arguably has 1 to 2 years maximum in the league, where he would likely rack up maybe 1 or 2 All-Star appearances. So, Tracy McGrady, as of 2021, is an 8-time MVP, a 2-time NBA champion, a 3-time Finals MVP, a 6-time Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time scoring leader, rebounding leader, 4-time steals leader, and 10-time All-NBA first team member, for a total of 21 All-Star appearances. John Drew, who played in the 70s and early 80s, and well into the 90s actually, as a role player, has a career award collection of being a 7-time MVP, one championship, one finals MVP, a 7-time defensive player of the year, a 6th man of the year, rookie of the year, a 6-time scoring leader, rebounding and steals leader multiple times, 10-time All NBA first team, and 16 All Star appearances. So both of these players are excellent players, and John Drew being a relatively unknown in real life, while Tracy McGrady at least being considered a top 10, 15 shooting guard of all time. However, when we look at their accolades, it is clear to me that Tracy McGrady has an edge over John Drew just because both of them were not all-time final winners. They did not win many championships. Both of them won either 2 or 1 championships, but Tracy McGrady was able to win 2 championships and 3 finals MVP, meaning that likely due to a lack of supporting cast, he ended up playing in the finals multiple times but never ended up winning a lot. He also had comparable defensive stats, while John Drew was a 1-time more defensive player of the year. Tracy McGrady was still 6-time DPOY, and he had 21 straight All-Star appearances in arguably a more competitive era. It's important to remember that in this simulation, the 70s, just like in real life, were not the most competitive NBA era of all time. So I would argue that Tracy McGrady is one of the best, if not the best player to have played in this simulation. And you can make the argument that Magic Johnson was also an excellent player, and while he did not have as many personal accolades, he had more team success. However, my pick for GOAT is Tracy McGrady, 8-time MVP, 21-time All-Star, and likely soon to be Hall of Fame inductee. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.